So, as we mentioned there, the US has been rapidly increasing its military presence in the Caribbean. Let's take a closer look at that, because since August, more than 15,000 American soldiers and fighter jets have been deployed near Venezuela. It is the largest deployment of US forces in the region in decades. The US Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, has arrived in the southern Caribbean. It's the largest ship of its kind in the world, with its own air wing of more than 75 fighter jets on board, helicopters and early warning aircraft. A Navy destroyer carrying guided missiles, helicopters and Marines has also arrived in Trinidad and Tobago near Venezuela's coast. Venezuela has put its armed forces on high alert, deploying thousands of troops and reported 5,000 Russian-made missiles across the country, all in order to counter that military buildup. Well, Richard Weiss is Senior Fellow at the NATO Defense College. He joins us from Washington, D.C. A warm welcome to Al Jazeera. So firstly, can Trump unilaterally declare this no-fly zone? In your opinion, what does all of this mean?
He can, under his authority as commander-in-chief. He can cite self-defense reasons and other authorities. What it means is a harder question, because we don't quite know yet what is President Trump's ultimate objectives. Is it to put pressure on the Maduro regime to make concessions? Is it to have a change in the regime? Is it to secure concessions on other issues such as immigration? Is it to reinforce his support at home, showing he's tough on drug trafficking and crime? Or is it to influence other countries in South America? We know he's had problems with the governments of Brazil and a few others. So perhaps all these motives are at work. Perhaps some are more important than others, but for now, he's decided that putting pressure on the government through the military exercises you just discussed and the declaration of a de facto no-fly zone is going to help him with any of these goals.
Richard, I'm just looking at the flight data map. I think we can probably get it up on screen here, that shows that mostly the warning to avoid airspace over, there it is, airspace over the country has been heeded. I wonder how the US can actually enforce and maintain this declaration, though, if there are any violations in its eyes.
In theory, the US could shoot down a plane. I don't think that would happen. I think simply making this declaration will lead any civilian airline or company to not want to risk the damage to its plane, death of its pilots and passengers. The insurance liability of flying to Venezuela has gone up a lot. So I think the idea is you just declare this, and this will influence the decision makers of these airlines, which, as you just said, seems to be the case.
Even if there is no military objective behind this, that it is perhaps a very fierce diplomatic form of posturing, this is likely to cause a huge amount of disruption across the country, to commercial airlines, to vast numbers of people, to the way in which cities are operating as well, of course, with people going to and from airports.
Right. Now, to be clear, Venezuelan economy is already a mess. I mean, it's had decades of misrule. Millions of people have fled the country to get better jobs. Trade and investment is very limited. So I don't think this will have an immediate impact in making an order of magnitude change in that situation.
Now, we know since early September, the Trump administration has attacked at least 21 boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific in international waters, killing 83 people, many of them Venezuelans, all without providing evidence that those boats were attempting to carry narcotics to the United States. So where is any legal justification for, firstly, this and any possible land strike on Venezuela?
So I'm not an international lawyer, so my knowledge of this question is limited, but I think that most lawyers seem to be able to find justification for whatever their clients want to do. So I'm suspecting they're going to find some justification, reasons of self-defense or whatever. But I think that the what's motivating the decision is less the legal considerations than the political military considerations.
Looking at this militarily, we know that some of the United States' allies have been quite tentative about sharing intelligence with the United States over concern that there would be breaches of international law. I mean, if the United States does decide to act unilaterally in Venezuela, could we expect Western allies, France, the United Kingdom and others to hold back here in offering any kind of support whatsoever?
I think that could well be the case. We saw this, for example, when the U.S. and Britain invaded Iraq a couple decades ago. Some countries decided to declare they opposed this and refused to assist, at least initially. That said, I mean, I think in this scenario, the U.S. has pretty much all the intelligence and support it needs. It's got some partners in the region. It certainly has more force than needed for anything but a land invasion. So I think it would be more a diplomatic problem, some strains with the allies in Europe, perhaps more strains with partners and allies in South America. I'm sure the Russians and Chinese would bring the issue to the Security Council to attack the U.S. But I think if the U.S. wants to try and shoot down planes over Venezuela or threaten to do so, it can without the assistance of other governments.
What about Venezuela's capacity to defend itself and to strike back potentially if required?
Thought to be modest. Again, Iraq is a good example here of how the U.S. and Britain pretty much overwhelmed Saddam Hussein's Republican Guard and all those feared forces. So the main problem of actually using force in Venezuela, particularly a land invasion, is what comes afterwards. So, okay, you destroy the existing political military structure. They're really good civilian candidates to take over leadership, but the economy would be a wreck. There wouldn't be force to keep law and order unless the U.S. troops there stayed there for years, as we saw in Iraq. So I think that's actually the main deterrent rather than any kind of retaliation the Venezuelan military could do, which would be modest.
And of course, the US has issued that huge $50 million bounty for Maduro's arrest. I mean, the fact that the United States might feel the need to ratchet up things militarily with any kind of direct action in Venezuela, does that say that offer of a huge amount of money and whatever intelligence the US may have operating on the ground in Venezuela isn't working on its own?
What I think the Trump administration would prefer is if the Venezuelan military were to seize power and arrest Maduro, or Maduro would go off to, follow Ambassador Assad's solution and fly off to Moscow or Cuba or someplace. But since that hasn't occurred, they're clearly ratcheting up pressure, and this may be part of this, the military maneuvers and the no-fly zone.
All right, it's been really good to hear your thoughts and analysis on this, Richard. Richard Weiss there, Senior Fellow at the NATO Defense College with us in Washington, D.C.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.